What up, YouTube? Here with another episode of Talk Wrestling. On this episode, I'm going to be giving my reviews on the latest events that happened in the world of pro wrestling and as well as the latest news. The first event I'm going to be giving my review on is WWE's Night of Champions. Now, this is how I do my wrestling review videos. I'll give every match that happened on the card a rating out of a 5 and the overall event a rating out of a 10. Now, without any further ado, let's get to the reviewing part. The opening contest of this year's Night of Champions was for the World Heavyweight Championship, contested between Seth Rollins and AJ Styles. Now, I didn't understand why AJ Styles, being drafted to SmackDown, got to compete for a world title that was brought to play for Monday Night Raw, because the undisputed Universal Champion Roman Reigns being drafted to SmackDown, that would leave Raw without a world title. And when they do a draft, that means that both shows are going to get a fresh new start. And what better way to do it than to add a new world title to play to up the prestige of Monday Night Raw. And then when they said that this was going to be a Raw exclusive title, they had SmackDown wrestlers compete in the tournament to have a chance to win this world title that was presented for Raw. Didn't make sense. Hey, it is what it is though. Not complaining, because the fans got a good wrestling match out of this. When you have two good wrestlers who are workhorses, guys like Seth Rollins and AJ Styles, when they get in there, you're expected for these wrestlers of their caliber to produce a good match, and that's what we got. And I give this match a rating of a 3.5 out of a 5. Seth Rollins ended up getting the win after hitting the stomp, and now he is the new World Heavyweight Champion. And Triple H came out to present him the world title and, let him get his shine after getting that win. And as I said, when you have Seth Rollins and AJ Styles compete in a wrestling match, bound to have a good match, and it's a good opening contest, and it gets the fans to be invested to the rest of the show. It sets up the momentum, the pace of how the rest of the show is gonna go, and that's what we got. I heard that this was supposed to be the main event. However, I think Seth Rollins had to book a flight to go finish shooting the rest of his movie, because I know this doesn't relate at all to the wrestling part of this discussion. However, that's why this wasn't the main event and it was rather the opening contest, because Seth Rollins had to go perform his duties for the movie that he's a part of. And as I said, regardless of that, it's still a good slot for a match of this caliber to be put at, because as I said, the opening contest is very much important, because that's the tone setter of the show. And I don't think there's any better wrestler to be the new world champion presented as the face of that show over there on Raw. Seth Rollins been a workhorse, been a wrestler that's been a top talent for the WWE ever since he got called up to the main roster. As y'all know, his indie circuit days, he was well known and was deemed as one of the best wrestlers in all of pro wrestling, and he's kept that reputation up since he's been with the WWE. That's why I say there's no other better wrestlers that could be a new world champion presented as the face of Monday Night Raw than the Seth Rollins. There's guys, Cody Rhodes, Finn Balor, guys who are on that level of a Seth Rollins as far as how over they are, However, Seth Rollins, he's been had that momentum as that guy for the WWE for longer than both Cody Rhodes and Finn Balor. And as I said, with this draft that happened this year and Raw getting a fresh new start, this is a good look for not only Seth Rollins, however, a good look for Monday Night Raw. Anyways, the next contest was Trish Stratus versus Becky Lynch. Now, this wasn't a title match. However, it was a featured match that was on the card, and they had a good storyline. As y'all know, Trish Stratus made a comeback to the WWE for WrestleMania when she teamed up with Becky Lynch and Lita to take on Damage Control. If y'all remember, before Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler became the new WWE Tag Team Champions, it was Lita. Well, before that, it was Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan. But Liv Morgan got injured and she's out of action right now. That's why they had to crown the new Women's Tag Team Champions. As I said, that is Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler now. And before Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan were the Tag Team Champions, it was Lita and Becky Lynch who won those titles from Dakota Kai and Io Sky of the Damage Control on the road to WrestleMania. And then before Backlash, Lita had got written off script because she had to play like she got injured, and that's how Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus lost the tag team titles, and that's how this feud led into this match at Night of Champions when it was Trish Stratus who turned on Becky Lynch after them not successfully defending the women's tag team titles. And then this match, it was a good match for what it was. I give this match a 3 out of a 5. The surprise element was that Zoe Starks, who recently got drafted to the Monday Night Raw roster, she is siding with Trish Stratus. Now, as y'all know, with Lita being written off script, Lita retired quite a while ago. And she's a Hall of Famer who did her thing already. That's why her coming back was only like a WrestleMania thing, and she went off. And then now I thought Trish Stratus, it was going to be the same for her. And then she was a part of this year's draft, and she got drafted to Raw, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. However, it looks like she's still going to be a continued featured wrestler that's going to be on Raw, on the more of the managerial role for Zoe Starks. Zoe Starks, she was doing her thing over there on NXT, and then she got drafted recently, as I said, to Raw, and then she made an interference to make sure that Trish Stratus secured that win versus Becky Lynch. And I wonder how this is going to play out. This is a good look for Zoe Starks to align herself with a legend like Trish Stratus, a Hall of Famer, a very well accomplished wrestler. And Trish Stratus, I think this fits her role as well. There's, good use for Trish Stratus being a manager more than her being an active wrestler. She's in shape. She's in good condition, and she can still go. And she's proven that at WrestleMania and in this match as well, because this was quite a lengthy match we saw between Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus. However, Zoe Starks being the more younger, fresher talent, and her being recently on the come up, and she's on the way to building her career and getting her work put in, is no other better figure than having somebody of a Trish Stratus caliber by her side to help her build a momentum and reputation, to have Zoe Starks climb up amongst the ranks, and to be in the storyline with Becky Lynch as well. That's also a good look for Zoe Starks, and it looks like that feud with these three wrestlers is going to continue, probably, I'm going to guess, till SummerSlam. Anyways, as I said, another spot in the match that could be highlighted. Becky Lynch, she's got a rough style, and her nose got busted. It started leaking during halfway of the match, and yeah, that goes to show this was a physical match between Trish Stratus and Becky Lynch. And the next match on the card, we saw the Intercontinental title match with Mustafa Ali challenging Gunther for the Intercontinental title. Now, besides Roman Reigns, Gunther has had the most impressive reign, and he's been a very well over Intercontinental champion who's been doing this thing, who's been holding down the mid-card scene substantially. I say because Austin Theory, he had recently became once again the United States champion, and him having that back and forth after him losing the Money in the Bank, after failing to attempt that Money in the Bank cash in for a United States title at that, and then he bounced back and then won the U.S. title, went on a good reign, had some good feuds, got a win over a legend like John Cena. That's a good look. I'm talking about the mid-card scene right now. I'll get to the match in a bit. We talking about talk wrestling, so I'm gonna talk wrestling, right? And Gunther, however, he's never had a struggle where he lost a title and tried to gain it back. It wasn't that. Gunther, ever since he won the IC title, ever since he got the call-up from NXT last year, he's always successfully defended that IC title from the day that he's won it, and he's been running through all types of names in his impressive IC title reign. And the story didn't change at Night of Champions. Mustafa Ali, he had a good crowd reaction because he's not from Saudi Arabia. However, he's well liked there because of his beliefs, and that's why he had a good crowd reaction, and he had a slot on that card that night because this was in Saudi Arabia. As I said, I know he's not from there, however, he's from around that region. That's why it was important for WWE to book him to have a spot at this year's Night of Champions because of where it was being hosted. And this match didn't disappoint. It was a ordinary, regular match. I give this match a rating of a 2.5 out of a 5. It was mediocre at best. It was, as I said, Mustafa Ali getting spotlighted for this year's Night of Champions due to the area, due to the country that the event was being hosted at, and it would be a good look for him, and it would be another name added onto Gunther's list where he successfully defends his IC title, and that's what it was. And then the next match on the card, it was for the Raw Women's title. Now, I talked about how this year's draft didn't make sense at all. I talked about how the world title that was pitched for Raw, it has SmackDown wrestlers compete for it, and then Asuka and Bianca Belair, who both got drafted to SmackDown this year. Bianca Belair, before the draft, who was a Raw Women's Champion, she lost the Raw Women's title at Night of Champions this year. Well, when she got drafted, when she was still the Raw Women's Champion, she still kept the Raw Women's title when she got drafted to SmackDown. Doesn't make sense at all. Y'all remember when, what was it? Was it the 2021 draft? I think it was. That's when Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair had to swap the women's titles because they got drafted to separate brands. It was like a trade brand of the Raw Women's Champion and SmackDown Women's Champion, which was the case for this year's draft as well. However, unlike 2021's draft, this year's draft, there was no swapping, there was no trading of the titles. Whatever though, I don't know if they're gonna. I heard that it's rumored that there's gonna be new women's title presented. We'll see though. Anyways, Asuka, as I said, she got the victory. She is now the new Raw Women's Champion. As y'all know, Asuka had character development for this year's WrestleMania. That's why a lot of people were pulling for Asuka and hoping for Asuka to get her WrestleMania moment and win at WrestleMania, because she hasn't won at WrestleMania, and for her to make these character adaptations and adjustments, change, whatever you want to call it. It was a good look for Asuka, and for her to lose at WrestleMania, I get it. Bianca Belair, they wanted her to keep her undefeated streak at WrestleMania, have a lengthy, impressive title reign, and for her to lose it at Night of Champion, I'm not saying it's a meaningless event, because this was held at a international on an international ground and not America. That's why I say it could have counted as like a special event. However, it's not the same as a WrestleMania or even a SummerSlam. That's why it didn't make a lot of sense that Asuka would win at an event like this. Maybe you can say, for argument's sake, that because the draft happened, it's given SmackDown a fresh new start. And if you put it like that, then I could somewhat see what you're saying if you're presenting that alternative. And this match, I'll give it a match rating of a 3 out of a 5. It was more like the WrestleMania match. Asuka, as y'all know, she's got this whole new crazy, psychotic, misspitting character, and she used that mist to her advantage, and that's what they've been building this feud on, that Asuka keeps on spitting mist on Bianca Belair and all her opponents, really. And in this match, that was a factor as well. She tried to spit on Bianca Belair with that mist. She missed though. However, she had a backup, and then she smeared mist on her fingers, and when Bianca Belair had Asuka on her shoulders ready to hit the KOD, Asuka rubs that mist that was on her finger in the eyes of Bianca Belair, and Bianca Belair gets blinded with that mist, and then Asuka hits her with the kick to the back of the head, and then she gets the win, and now she secures the Raw Women's title, and now is the new Raw Women's Champion. Now I'm looking forward to Asuka's reign. I think she's been a good champion before. She's been a Women's World Champion before, and she's held down the women's division for quite a while now. She's been a household name in the WWE or in all women's wrestling for a while now, and it's not going to be any different with her reign as the new women's champion. And I think it's going to be more better this time because of the character changes that she added to this new run that she's going on. And that's why I'm looking forward to it. Anyways, the next match on the card was for the SmackDown Women's title. Rhea Ripley defending her SmackDown Women's Championship versus Natalya. Now, as I said, there was no trade for the SmackDown and Raw Women's title. Rhea Ripley, who got drafted to Raw this year, kept her SmackDown Women's title. As I said, no trades, no swap this year, And Rhea Ripley, she won the title. She won this match to retain a title, and this match was more of a time filler match, really. And I think it was Natalya. It was like a day for Natalya. It was like a reason why Natalya got a feature slot on this year's Night of Champions. I don't know what it was. They were celebrating, I don't know, some kind of anniversary for her. Anyways, Rhea Ripley won this match. I'll give this match a rating of a 2 out of 5. Dominic Mysterio, who was ringside playing managerial role, accompanying Rhea Ripley for this match, as he always does and as she always does for his matches. He provided a distraction, and then that helped Rhea Ripley secure the win, and she still is the SmackDown Women's Champion. And then the next match on the card was Brock Lesnar versus Cody Rhodes. Another feature match that was on this year's card of Night of Champions. Now, I don't know why there wasn't the United States title being defended the day before Night of Champions on SmackDown. We saw Sheamus versus Austin Theory for the U.S. title. Why they couldn't have that featured at this year's Night of Champions? I guess they felt like it wasn't a good enough of a match. I think those two can pull off a pay-per-view event worthy match. However, I don't know if they didn't have enough time for it, and with the star power that both Brock Lesnar and Cody Rhodes got, and their name is more valuable than Austin Theory and Sheamus, kind of goes against the gimmick of this pay-per-view event and its theme, Night of Champions. Whatever, it is what it is though. And then the storyline with Brock Lesnar and Cody Rhodes is cool, and it's continuing. They had a good back and forth match at Backlash, and it was a controversial finish that we saw at Backlash, and it was a clever, good ending to that match with Brock Lesnar and Cody Rhodes. Clever ending it was that we saw. And I say that because if y'all go see the footage of that match and how it ended, Brock Lesnar had the Kimura locked in, and then Cody Rhodes, it looked like he got a fluke of a victory after getting a roll-up win via getting like that. You know that cliche finish to those wrestling matches? It was one of those. That's why I say it was a very clever way to end it. And then that kind of leaves like questions in the air. And a guy like Brock Lesnar, he's not going to be pleased with that ending, and that's why it left that space for that unfinished business for the storyline of Brock Lesnar and Cody Rhodes, and that's what led to this match. And then Cody Rhodes wasn't at 100% for this match because on the episode before Night of Champions of Monday Night Raw, Brock Lesnar attacked Cody Rhodes and targeted his arm, and Cody Rhodes had a gimmick injury of a broken arm of some sort, and then he had a cast for the match selling that injury, and Brock Lesnar defeated Cody Rhodes, made him pass out after locking in the Kimura because Cody Rhodes refused to tap out, and that's what got Brock Lesnar to win. And there was good selling points at this match of that injured arm of Cody Rhodes, and Brock Lesnar getting his revenge by getting Cody Rhodes to to pass out and be put to sleep after locking in the Kimura, and it gives Cody Rhodes that cliche babyface look of being resilient and not giving up and putting up a fight no matter what it is. And it gives Brock Lesnar that heel look of getting that satisfaction of getting him to get defeated via the hole that he originally intended for Cody Rhodes to lose to him against. And I'll give this match a rating of a 3 out of a 5. And then the main event for this year's Night of Champions was for the Undisputed Tag Team titles, with the Bloodline, not the Usos, but Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns challenging the champions Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn, much like Mustafa Ali, I know he's not from Saudi Arabia, however, he's from around that region, he's from around that area, and that's why he got the support, he got the crowd reaction that he got when he showed for this match. And this was a good match, and you know, I'll give this match rating of a 3.5 out of a 5. And I was gonna give it a 4 out of a 5. As I said, this was a good main event as expected. As I said, the reason why I was gonna give this match a rating of a 4 out of a 5 because of the ending. However, it didn't add that much to the match, because the match itself was like, it was a good match. I'm not saying it was a bad match. It was good back and forth action, good pace going on. And when you have these 4 wrestlers of their caliber, they're bound to produce a good match. And that's what we saw. And the reason why I was going to give it a 4 out of a 5, y'all know already. If y'all tapped into the wrestling world, y'all know what they trying to sell this moment as, and that being the kick that was heard all over the world. And that was Jimmy Uso saying he had enough of Roman Reigns' aggressive, disrespectful behavior and his disdain towards Jimmy Uso that he's been showing as of lately. Because as y'all know, leading to this match, the Usos, they had a rematch to get back their undisputed tag team titles. They failed. And then the week after that, Roman Reigns said to Jimmy Uso, apologized to him for the disappointing performances that the Usos has been putting on lately. And then Jimmy Uso kind of laughed at him like, yo, he got to be joking. And then Roman Reigns showed that he was serious, mushed Jimmy Uso, and he's been doing that for weeks after weeks after weeks leading to Night of Champions. And he did that again at Night of Champions when the Usos came out to interfere to help Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa to hopefully have Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa get those undisputed tag team titles for the Bloodline. However, when Jimmy Uso and Jey Uso went for the double super kick on Sami Zayn moved out the way and they hit Solo Sikoa instead. And then Roman Reigns was obviously displeased with that, and Roman Reigns he got in both the faces of the Usos saying, why y'all out here? And then Roman Reigns would go on to mush Jey Uso this time instead. And then Roman Reigns, when he turns around, Jimmy Uso super kicks him in the face. And then Jimmy Uso showing that, like he's not going to stand for that anymore. And then Jey Uso, this storyline with the Bloodline is without a doubt the best thing going on, not saying all of pro wrestling. And this is just another example of it. And then Jey Uso trying to get in the ears of Jimmy Uso, saying like, what are you doing? You messed up doing that. How you gonna kick a tribal chief in the face? You supposed to be patient. You supposed to be enduring. And then Jimmy Uso said, nah, like, this ain't it. Like, he said to Jey Uso, he's doing what Jey Uso should have been did, and then he says he's got him, and he super kicks Roman Reigns again. And then that gets Roman Reigns out of the picture. And then here comes Kevin Owens hitting Solo Sikoa with the stunner, and then Sami Zayn finishes it with the Haluma kick to secure and retain the undisputed tag team titles for Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. And as I said, very good way to close the show. Very good main event, as I said. And that's the best way to close out a event. And I'll give this event a whole rating of a 7 out of a 10. Moving on to the next event. I'm going to be giving my reviews on this year's AEW's Double or Nothing. The opening contest to this year's Double or Nothing was for the international title. Now, I didn't know they changed the name of this title. Doesn't matter, though. Orange Cassidy is the international champion, and they had a battle royale for it. And Orange Cassidy retained the international title. after it was him and Swerve who were the last man standing in this battle royale, and he won it in a clever way. They were both hanging on the apron of the ring, and then Orange Cassidy eliminated Swerve the way how Orange Cassidy does, without any stress, without any, effort. Y'all know the style of Orange Cassidy, right? Making it look easy, and that's what he did. And this battle royal was, to have as many talents of AEW and their stacked roster, which seems like they don't know what to do with all the talent that they have. And it was for them because Double or Nothing is like their biggest event. That was their introduction to the professional wrestling world. AEW made their debut with this event, Double or Nothing. That's like their WrestleMania, right? And that's why they had to have as many wrestlers that they have on their roster featured through their opening contest in this battle royale for the international title. And I give this match a rating of a 2.5 out of a 5. The next match on the card was a unsanctioned bout with Chris Jericho and Adam Cole. Now, this was a good storyline. I like how they built up this feud. AEW, with their efforts of how they lead their matches, especially when it comes to pay-per-view event matches, they make it more about the wrestling and give it that like sporty wrestling gimmick theme feeling, instead of putting efforts into the storylines and building of that feud, or they drag on the feud and the storyline till it gets stale. However, I think they did a good solid job with this feud with Adam Cole and Chris Jericho. And they made it personal with having Britt Baker involved in this storyline, who is the real life girlfriend of Adam Cole. Not that it matters or anything. And then it had Saraya involved in it as well. Now, I don't know. She's in her own group. She's, I think, a part of the Outcast. That's with her. Ruby Soho and Tony Storm. They're not a part of the JAS. However, they made this alliance together because I think of Britt Baker, who is friends with Jamie Hayter, and Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker's been in a feud with the Outcast. That's why I think this alliance came about. And then, as y'all know, and that was like the whole build to it when Adam Cole made his return after coming back from injury. He had this face off with Chris Jericho, and that's what started the tension with Adam Cole and Chris Jericho. And then Britt Baker got involved after Chris Jericho cheap shotted Adam Cole, and then they had that hellacious attack done onto Adam Cole and Britt Baker, and then that's what made this storyline more personal, and it added more spice to this feud with Adam Cole and Chris Jericho. That's why this match was a unsanctioned bout, and it had interferences allowed. As I said, anything goes in an unsanctioned bout. And Adam Cole, as y'all know, the Undisputed isn't a part of AEW anymore. Bobby Fish, he got released. And then Kyle O'Reilly, he's on the injury shelf. Roderick Strong, who had recently joined AEW, he was the only one accompanying Adam Cole for this match. And Sabu, who was like a guest appearance, who's a legend when it comes to pro wrestling, he was the special enforcer for this match because of this match and its gimmick and its theme being unsanctioned. That means JAS is allowed to be on the loose and be wild and interfere on the behalf of Chris Jericho. And then, somebody that comes from a ECW background like Sabu, ain't no better way to even out the odds than to have somebody like that. And then it's like one of those, like, I was gonna say a cheap crowd pop for Sabu to make an appearance to AEW because of, I would say, the majority demographics who are tapped into AEW, right? They do got a mainstream, I would say, channel that they broadcast their shows on. However, it's not as mainstream as WWE. That's why I say it's more hardcore wrestling enthusiasts than your casuals and your average viewers who watch wrestling here and there, right? That's why Sabu isn't like a Hulk Hogan. However, he is well known when it comes to wrestling fans who are actually very appreciative and respecting of the pro wrestling industry. Anyways, this match was a good match. I'll give this match a rating of a 3 out of a 5. I like the finish to the match because it wasn't like your typical pro wrestling finish. It was Adam Cole who was raining down hammer punches at Chris Jericho with the steel cuffs around his fist, and then the referee had to step in there as if this was like a UFC fight, and it was a TKO because Chris Jericho couldn't defend himself. And I thought that was a cool special finish that wrestling doesn't really provide that kind of finish to. And for this being an unsanctioned match and it getting a non-average finish, I thought that was appropriate. And in a match like this, you're gonna get highlight reel spots. Y'all can go check out the clips. There was, few good extreme spots. And Sabu, at his age, he wasn't even in wrestling gear, and he pulled off like ECW style spots in this match, man. It was great. Anyways, the next match was for the World Tag Team titles. It was what's the name? Mark Briscoe. That was the special guest referee, and it was FTR defending their tag team titles versus Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. And this match, it was a good match, good back and forth, good action match, and I'll give this match a rating of a 3 out of a 5. The highlight reel spots in this match was towards the finish when Jeff Jarrett hit Mark Briscoe over the head with the guitar when he intended to hit, I think it was either Dax Harwood or Cash Wheeler, whoever it was. I think it was Dax Harwood though, and he moved out the way, and then that's why Jeff Jarrett hit Mark Briscoe, the special guest referee, over the head with the guitar. And as y'all know, that's why Mark Briscoe was pitched as a special guest referee, because he has close relationships with both Jay Lethal and FTR. That's why it was like he was like the middleman, the bridge between these two teams. And that's why Jeff Jarrett didn't want to hit Mark Briscoe with anything, because he was supposed to be the fair referee for that match. And then after FTR hit their tag team finisher, there was no referee to count the pin attempt, and then that's when a female referee came down to be the replacement referee for Mark Briscoe while he was down and out. And then Karen Jarrett, who was ringside, she hits the referee over the head with the guitar when Sanjay Dutt got in the way of the female referee of making that count for FTR. And Sanjay Dutt, he was supposed to be kicked out because Mark Briscoe kicked out Sanjay Dutt and Satnam Singh from ringside, who always accompany Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett. And that's why when Mark Briscoe's back was turned after kicking out Sanjay Dutt and Satnam Singh, that's why Jeff Jarrett thought that he could swoop in there and hit one of the FTR members with the guitar over his head. And that's how it played out. And then Jay Lethal would hit the lethal injection on both Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood, and that bought both teams some time, because the female referee who tried to be the replacement referee while Mark Briscoe was making his recovery was out. Mark Briscoe was still out from that guitar shot. And then when both teams got back into action, and then Jeff Jarrett would try and secure the win for him and Jay Lethal, he couldn't get the win, and then FTR would hit their finisher on Jarrett again, and then that would secure FTR the win, and they retain their AEW tag team titles. And I'll give this match a rating of a 3 out of a 5. And then the next match on the card, it was the ladder match for the TNT title. Wardlow defending his TNT title versus Christian Cage. And for Christian Cage to compete in ladder matches is amazing, because you look at both him and Edge, who are both over the age, I think they're older than 50 now. And Christian Cage, he hasn't had as many injuries as Edge. However, he's a guy that previously retired and was more in the managerial role, and he still is on more of the managerial role. He's the manager for Luchasaurus, and that's why it would have made more sense for Luchasaurus to challenge for the TNT title instead of Christian Cage. However, I understand, because they're trying to build Wardlow up and try and add to his resume and make him look more credible as a TNT champion, and that's like their main mid-card title. And the ladder match is where Christian Cage made his legacy out of, and that's why this was a good look for Wardlow to defend his TNT title versus Christian Cage in a match where he specializes in. And Christian Cage, he did his thing in this match, because for him to pull off spots and compete in a match like this at all is amazing. I was trying to look for the right word. That's why I was stuttering. Bear with me, y'all. And there was interference involved in this match as well. You saw Luchasaurus interfere on the behalf of Christian, and Arn Anderson interfere on the behalf of Wardlow. And that was funny. It was Arn Anderson. It was fun. This was the funny part of the match. Arn Anderson biting the thumb of Luchasaurus, and I thought that was funny, because it's like, you know, what else can this elder man Arn Anderson do to this special specimen named Luchasaurus, who's being sold as a beast? That's his gimmick right now, right? And you know, I thought that was funny. And in this match, it was some highlight reel spots, and as I said, that's why it was crazy to see Christian Cage pull off the spots that he did during this match. And Wardlow obviously won as expected, and I'll give this match a 3 out of a 5. And Wardlow, for a guy of his stature, he's very agile, and he had a swanton bomb from the top of the ladder onto a table to take out Luchasaurus. That was like the highest highlight reel spot during this match. And then the next match on the card was for the AEW Women's World Title, Jamie Hayter versus Toni Storm. Toni Storm got this match won, and she is now the AEW Women's Champion. And I give this match rating of a 1 out of a 5. It was nothing special at all. Before Jamie Hayter could make her entrance, the Outcast members, Bo Saraya and what's her name, and Ruby Soho, they had attacked Jamie Hayter before Jamie Hayter could make her way out to defend her AEW Women's title. And how this storyline has been built up, as y'all know, it was Jamie Hayter, Britt Baker versus the Outcast, and Outcast being like this radical rebel group who cheap shots and attacks every woman on the roster. They're like the savage group of AEW Women's roster. That's their gimmick, and they continue that for Double or Nothing for this match with Jamie Hayter and Toni Storm. And I heard that not Toni Storm, pardon. I say Jamie Hayter. I heard that she's actually injured. That I think she hurt her shoulder or something like that. That's why she couldn't have a actual match to defend the AEW Women's title, and that's why she dropped the AEW Women's title to Toni Storm at this event, because she needs some time off, because she actually hurt her shoulders. And as y'all know, she had tapes over her shoulders, because that's indicating that her shoulder is injured. And then Britt Baker came out for the save, and this was funny because both Saraya and Britt Baker made a appearance during the match with Adam Cole and Chris Jericho. And then for this match as well, Britt Baker came out to take out Saraya and Ruby Soho that way, and Hikaru Shida as well. Hikaru Shida and Britt Baker came out to even out the odds to take out Ruby Soho and Saraya. That way, Toni Storm and Jamie Hayter could actually have a match. And then it was a short-lived match, and Toni Storm got the win, and now is the new women's champion. You know what? I'm going to be fair. I'll give this match a 1.5 out of a 5, all right? Because of the other elements that added on to this match to make it more worthwhile than what it was, all right? And then the next match on the card was for the trios title, the House of Black versus the Acclaim, and it was supposed to be a surprise team versus the House of Black for the trios title, and the Acclaim isn't really a surprise opponent. People were possibly expecting a debut or a surprise, however, didn't get it. This could have been a match that could have been on a Dynamite or a Rampage. Nothing special about it. The wrestling was the typical average AEW wrestling style match, and I'll give this match a rating of a 2 out of a 5. The House of Black retained the AEW Trios title, and the next match on the card was for the TBS title, Jade Cargill versus Taya Valkyrie. Now, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name correct, and pardon me if I'm not pronouncing her name right. Alright, bear with me, y'all. And Jade Cargill won this match and successfully defended her TBS title, improved the record to 60-0. And I'll give this match a 3 out of a 5. It was a good back and forth, good action match. And Taya Valkyrie, how this match was being presented was Taya Valkyrie, who kind of physically matches the stature and the strength of Jade Cargill. And that was like supposed to be the biggest match of Jade Cargill's career. And for her to get this win is a good look on her. It puts her over as this incredible champion who's been on an impressive, lengthy reign. And she got the win after hitting the Glam Slam. And you know what's funny? I don't know if Taya Valkyrie, if her finisher is the Glam Slam as well. Right before Jade Cargill turned it around on her, she hit that same maneuver. Jade Cargill was able to kick out of it, unlike Taya Valkyrie, who couldn't kick out of the Glam Slam after Jade Cargill hit that on her. And a funny, cool spot that was in this match was when Taya Valkyrie came from the top rope and dived on the smart Mark Sterling. I thought that was funny. That's like the comedic part of pro wrestling that was featured in this match. And then after Jade Cargill successfully defended her TBS title, Mark Sterling went on to talk crap. And he said, who can beat Jade Cargill? She's 60-0, undefeated. She's unstoppable, this and that, blah, blah. Whoever's out there, Jade Cargill will run through them. And then who came out? Chris Statlander, who was on the injury shelf for a while. She made a return. And then she answered the call of Mark Sterling and challenged for the TBS title, putting an end to the reign of Jade Cargill. And now she is the new TBS champion. And I'm not going to give that match a rating because it wasn't really a match. It was like a surprise factor. And I heard Jade Cargill had requested time off from being active. Now, I don't know the reason to it. I ain't looked up to it. And I just heard that she's taking some time off. Anyways, the next match on the card was for the AEW World title, the Four Pillars match with the four homegrown talent of AEW who's been with AEW since AEW started. And MJF, the AEW World Champion, defending the world title versus Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, Darby Allin, and Sammy Guevara. And this was the best match of the night. I'd give this match a 4.5 out of a 5. This was what you call a classic wrestling match. It had every style added to it. I ain't got to talk about all the styles that's out there, from the grappling, the high flying, the theatrics, the crap talking, and all the elements of pro wrestling and the in-ring abilities that y'all could think of as wrestling fans. It was displayed in this match. And it was good pace, good back and forth, good action in this match. And MJF had got the victory and retained the AEW World title. Now, the highlight reel spots, there was plenty in this match. And the funny spot in this match was when Sammy Guevara had MJF in the Walls of Jericho, and Darby Allin had Jungle Boy in the Scorpion. I'm going to call it sharpshooter. Had him in the sharpshooter. And MJF was about to tap out. And Jungle Boy has stopped MJF from tapping out. And then there was another funny spot in this match. And that was MJF. If y'all haven't seen it already, when Sammy Guevara made his entrance, he had Tay Conte by his side. And they showed and they announced to the world that Tay Conte is pregnant and they will be parents. And MJF, who built an alliance with Sammy Guevara, got on the microphone, started talking crap and saying, oh, he's paying off Sammy Guevara to do this, and if Sammy Guevara's got a kid coming on the way, he better lay down and take this fall for him. And he was about to, and then the crap talking got too much, and then Sammy Guevara started putting that pain in towards MJF. And those were some spots in the match that I thought I would bring to attention. Anyways, I already gave the match rating for this match, and as I said, this was the best match on the card, and I'm sure it's going to be a strong candidate for the match of the year for this year in all of pro wrestling. Anyways, the next match on the card was the main event to this year's Double or Nothing, the Anarchy in the Arena match. We saw the Elite versus Blackpool Combat Club. And this has been built up very well as well. The storyline, the feud, it had good lead to it. And you got two of, I'd say, arguably the best groups in pro wrestling having a match. And no better appropriate fitting match in the Anarchy in the Arena match to be competed in with both these teams. And the match didn't disappoint. It was a typical Anarchy in the Arena match. The pace of it was of that. The elements were there. That hardcore element, that hardcore gimmick, the hardcore spots was all there. And the live band was there as well this year, unlike last year where they had the music of Jon Moxley, Wild Things being played out through the speakers. They had a real live band performing during the beginning of the match, and then later it'll be shut up by the Young Bucks after the Young Bucks would super kick the lead singer after the lead singer showed off that t-shirt of Blackpool Combat Club, and that's what made the Young Bucks double super kick the lead singer of that band. And then there was a surprise element to this match, to the ending of this match, that is, and that's when Kenny Omega looked like he had the match won for the Elite. He was gonna hit his finisher on Wheeler Yuta. Then Don Callis, who sided with Blackpool Combat Club leading to this match, that's when he came to provide the distraction on the behalf of Blackpool Combat Club, and Kenny Omega saw that coming, and then he had dropped Wheeler Yuta and turned his attention towards Don Callis, and Don Callis was looking like he was about to get the beats from Kenny Omega, and then out of nowhere, somebody in disguise comes in and hits Kenny Omega with the kick, and then Wheeler Yuta hits Kenny Omega with the screwdriver to secure the win for the Blackpool Combat Club. And come to find out, the guy that came in disguise out of nowhere was Takeshita. And Takeshita, like Don Callis, who got the beats from the Blackpool Combat Club and their weapon of use being the screwdriver, and Takeshita was siding with the Elite at first, and he got put on the injury shelf because of the Blackpool Combat Club. And much like Don Callis, same thing for Takeshita, he is now aligned with Blackpool Combat Club. And the Blackpool Combat Club, I like the streak that they're on. I like this new mean guy heel gimmick. I think it's very suiting. I think it's very fitting for the Blackpool Combat Club. And it's a good look for them. And it's definitely a good look for Takeshita to elevate Takeshita's career to that next level, because ever since he's been displayed at AEW, he showed great potential, and there's high hopes for Takeshita. And a lot of people are talking about Takeshita possibly being a future world champion, and to have Takeshita aligned with Blackpool Combat Club, who's very much accomplished, and to have a mouthpiece like Don Callis speak out for him, that's a good look. To have Don Callis as the manager of Takeshita, because Takeshita, the language barrier could have been the question factor for the wrestling fans, who were saying, there's that doubt because of that language barrier. How is he going to be able to connect with a lot of the wrestling fans who doesn't speak Japanese? That would have been the question, because how is he going to be able to sell himself as a champion and as something to be taken serious outside of his in-ring ability? The charisma factor, his ability to cut promos, talk, and things of that nature, those elements of pro wrestling, it needs to be complete, and a high caliber wrestler has to be well rounded when it comes to all parts of the pro wrestling's elements. And for him to be with Blackpool Combat Club, this is definitely going to be a good look for Takeshita. And I'll give this match a rating of a 4 out of a 5. And I'm going to give this year's Double or Nothing a rating of a 7 out of a 10 as an overall event. Next event I'm going to be giving my review on is this year's NXT's Battleground. And NXT, ever since they made a lot of improvements, they are starting to have their own events as well, and it's showing success. And the opening contest to this year's Battleground was for the NXT North American title. Wesley defending the NXT North American title versus Tyler Bate and Joe Gacy. Now, this was a good opening contest. When you have three workhorses like these wrestlers, is bound to produce a good quality wrestling match, and that's what we got. It was a good momentum setter that we saw to open the event to Battleground, and Wesley successfully defended the NXT North American title, and he got the win after hitting his finishing move. And I'll give this match a rating of a 3 out of a 5. And then the next match we saw was for the Heritage Cup. It was a match with Dragon Lee versus Noam Dar, and this was a good match as well. Good back and forth action between the two wrestlers, and both wrestlers can work, and that's why we saw the quality match that we saw between these two wrestlers. And there was interference elements as well. Now I forgot the name of the manager of Noam Dar who was ringside, and Nathan Frazier, who was on the ringside, he was there to even out the odds for the manager that was ringside for Noam Dar. And then that was not only the interference factor, that was Lash Legend and her friend who helped Noam Dar get the victory versus Dragon Lee after Lash Legend's friend, who I forgot the name of, and that's why the referee's attention was turned, because he was distracted with Lash Legend's friend who was providing the distraction, and then Lash Legend hit Dragon Lee on the back with a steel bucket, and then that's what helped Noam Dar secure the victory. And I'll give this match a rating of a 3 out of a 5. Then the next match on the card we saw was a last man standing match with Ilja Dragunov versus Dijak. And I say this was the best match of the card. And this match was as last man standing match is supposed to be like. It was hardcore, it was brutal, it was very physical, and these elements has been missing when it comes to WWE. And last man standing is supposed to be like how this match was between Dragunov and Dijak. And that aspect, that element that we saw between these two wrestlers has been missing in the WWE when it comes to last man standing matches. Maybe that's why it felt like it was such a thrilling match that we saw with Dragunov and Dijak. And it was many highlight reel spots featured in this match. Dragunov putting his own body out there and slamming himself through the table to stop Dijak's momentum when he at the table, or when he tried to set up the table, and then Dijak brutally whooping Dragunov with that kendo stick, and Dragunov hitting the coast to coast on the steel steps. And it was a very, very hardcore match that fits the title of this match and the gimmick of this match, and what wrestling fans who's been a fan of pro wrestling for a long time knows the match of last man standing to be. And we saw exactly that between Ilja Dragunov and Dijak in this match. Anyways, the next match on the card was for the NXT Tag Team titles. The Gallus defending their NXT Tag Team titles versus the Creed Brothers. The highlight reel spot in this match was one of the Creed Brothers going on a suplex roll. He hit as many suplexes as you could think of, showing his great athleticism and his agility, and it was great to see, man. It was a good display of skills, and that's like his own version of taking his opponents to Suplex City. And Gallus successfully defended the NXT Tag Team titles after, I forgot the name of The Rock's daughter. She made an interference that distracted the Creed Brothers, and she took out Ivy Niles, who was ringside accompanying the Creed Brothers for this match. and then the Gallus, who also had their manager ringside, had enough time when the Creed brothers were distracted and they hit their move, and then they got the win and successfully defended their NXT tag team titles. And I'll give this match a rating of a 3 out of a 5. And the next match on the card was the finals to the NXT Women's title. It was a match between Tiffany Stratton and Lyra Valkyria. Now, I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name correct. However, bear with me. And this was a very good match. Good back and forth. Good action match with these two wrestlers. And Tiffany Stratton ended up getting the win after hitting her moonsault. And they definitely displayed good in-ring ability in this match. And the selling point and the physicality, the athleticism, and the theatrics, which is selling point as well. Good expressions were shown in this match from both wrestlers, and it was a great way to close the NXT Women's Title Tournament. And Tiffany Stratton is now the new NXT Women's Champion. She hit the moonsault. That's her finishing move. And that's what secured her win to become the new NXT Women's Champion. And I'll give this match a rating of a 3.5 out of a 5. As I said, it was a very good, very lengthy match that we saw. And I'm looking forward to Tiffany Stratton and what she can do on the developmental stages at NXT as the NXT Women's Champion. Now, there is a lot of hype around her. There's a lot of potential being talked about surrounding Tiffany Stratton. And for her to pull off this match and the quality, the caliber, the good length of this match is definitely a good look to Tiffany Stratton's win as the NXT Women's Champion. And yeah, that's the right way to win a first world title for any wrestler, winning a first world title in their career. Anyways, the next match was a main event for the NXT World title. Carmelo Hayes defending the NXT World title versus Braun Breaker. And this was a good match as expected when you have these two wrestlers who are at the level of both Carmelo Hayes and Braun Breaker. You expect a good quality match, and that's what we saw. Good back and forth, good action match, and Carmelo Hayes successfully defended the NXT World title, and he hit his finishing move to secure the win. And Carmelo Hayes, he's going to continue his reign as the NXT World Champion. And this wasn't any different, I would say, from their match from Stand and Deliver. I think their match of Stand and Deliver was more of a better quality match than the match that we saw at Battleground. However, I'll give this match a rating of a 3 out of a 5. And Battleground, I will give Battleground a show of a rating of a 6.5 out of a 10. And moving on to the next subject, I'm going to be talking about the latest news that involves AEW. Now that the reviewing part is done, let's get to the news part, right? AEW announced that they will be premiering a new show coming up in I think it's gonna be next week. I think it's next Saturday when AEW is gonna premiere their new show called AEW Collision. It's gonna be every Saturday on TNT, and this is gonna be their third show. As y'all know, their main show is on TBS, and that is Dynamite. That's their first original show. That was on TNT before, and then they moved it to TBS, I think, like 2 years ago. And that's their, 2-hour premiere show. That's what put AEW, and that's what launched AEW on the map as a weekly wrestling show. And then they added Rampage a few months after they debuted Dynamite. It was a 1-hour show. Every Friday they broadcast Rampage on TNT, and then now they're saying the day after that now, Collision is going to be a new third show added for AEW on TNT. It's going to be a 2-hour show, not a 1-hour show. And to have a show every Saturday, now I don't know if that's a good move, because Saturday is quite a busy day for, I say, the sports world. Now I don't know what the time slot is for AEW Collision on TNT. I haven't looked into that. And the fact that they're having a show every Saturday, which is out the norm for pro wrestling, because you look at every pro wrestling show that's on cable, it's during the weekdays. You have Monday Night Raw, Mondays obviously, Wednesday Night Dynamite, Friday Night SmackDown, and Friday Night Rampage. Now, TNT doesn't broadcast baseball, right? And I don't think TNT during the regular NBA season, I don't think they broadcast on Saturdays or weekends, period, for basketball on TNT. And football season isn't there, and football is on Sundays, not Saturdays, and no Turner Networks broadcasts football anyway, so that's not a worry. What I'm saying is, y'all look at combat sports, right? And baseball, right? It's baseball season right now, and baseball, they have a busy day every day because that's their schedule. If y'all tapped in with baseball, then y'all will know that. And baseball, Saturday is a big day for baseball because that's their games being broadcasted on Fox. I think it's called the Game of America or something like that. I don't know what they call it. They got one of them corny titles that they use for mainstream TV for baseball. You know how these channels do, right? And that's during the afternoon. Now I don't know if AEW Collision is going to be broadcasted during the evening or during the daytime. As I said, I don't know the time slot for the broadcasting schedule for AEW Collision. And does AEW need a third show? That's my question, because they kind of left Rampage on the back burner. They were putting in effort to Rampage when it first came about. Then a few months later, they dropped AEW Rampage and forgot about it. It seemed like they have good wrestling here and there, as AEW always produces them indie style wrestling matches for all their shows, and it's no different with Rampage. And they don't have the main stories being brought to light on Rampage. It's just there for guys that don't make the cut for Dynamite. And will they do the same for AEW Collision? There's hype being surrounded for this new show that AEW pitched. If the second show ain't that successful, what makes AEW think that adding a third show is a good idea? And as I said, when they brought Rampage to play at first, they were treating it like as if it was Dynamite. They were featuring a lot of their talent, a lot of their top talent on Rampage, and they stopped doing that after a few months. Will it be the same with Collision? Now that they brought Collision to play and brought it to the attention of the wrestling fans, saying that, yeah, AEW's got a new show, is going to be every Saturday on TNT called AEW Collision, and they brought this breaking news that CM Punk will be making his return to AEW after, from what we know, or from at least what I know, as CM Punk being released from AEW after having that dispute and physical altercation with the Elite. And now that they're bringing this new show, they're bringing back CM Punk, and it was announced on today's episode of AEW Dynamite, that the main event for the debut show of AEW Collision will be a trios match with CM Punk and FTR versus the Bullet Club and Samoa Joe. Now, as y'all know, ROH, I think they got their own app. ROH has their own show as well. Now, that is made for ROH. ROH being its own show, it's created for ROH and the championships of ROH to be spotlighted on their weekly shows. However, ROH is like Elevation. It's on the same level as AEW Elevation. Now, as y'all know, Rampage, they rarely have their own shows. Rampage is usually taped on the same night in the same arena when they have their live shows for Dynamite. Will it be the same with Collision? Won't it take so much time, a lot of time, for AEW Dynamite to be for AEW Dynamite's event to be set for that night at that arena? They gotta tape ROH, they gotta tape Elevation, and they gotta tape Collision. Now that and they gotta do a live broadcast of Dynamite. Now that's 4 shows in one night. That is very busy one day of pro wrestling. Now, if you are a very enthusiastic wrestling fan, then that would be a good look for you. You get to see all this wrestling in one night. However, the main question when it comes to this subject is, will AEW Collision be another AEW Rampage? Will they forget to put attention and effort into AEW Collision? And another question is CM Punk being brought back on the AEW roster a good look? And if you want to look at it on some positive way of looking at it, because of the main event to AEW Collision and it being FTR and CM Punk versus the Bullet Club and Samoa Joe, does this mean that Samoa Joe, who is the ROH TV champion, is going to get in a feud with CM Punk? As y'all know, they are both ROH legends. They made their careers starting at ROH. They are decorated ROH champions, and they had a legendary feud during their careers at ROH. Will they continue it? And as I said, positively speaking, that will shine more light to ROH, and it will bring ROH title more on the broadcast to AEW Collision. And if they do, what they got to do is keep that prestige and that momentum going, to have that prestige align with this new show that they're coming up with, known as AEW Collision. Y'all let me know what y'all opinions are on all the subjects that I covered on this episode of Talk Wrestling. Comment, subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff. And I'm out of here, y'all. Peace.